I'd like to call this meeting to order. Welcome, Council. And at this time, I'd like to give the opening to Councillor Zwaagstra.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. During the Second World War, thousands of young Canadian men requested conscientious objector status. These men, many of whom were Mennonites, claimed that their religious beliefs precluded them from taking up arms. To get an exemption, conscientious objectors had to convince a judge that their religious convictions were sincere. Judges often peppered applicants with tough theological questions and even tested them on how well they knew their Bibles. If the judge wasn't satisfied with the answers he received, the exemption was denied. Even when religious exemptions were granted, conscientious objectors weren't off the hook. They still had to participate in some form of alternative service, such as working in hospitals, building roads, cutting down trees, or even serving on the front lines as military medics. In other words, there wasn't much point in requesting conscientious objector status unless you really and truly believed in pacifist theology. Being a pacifist wasn't something you could do on a part-time basis. It was an all-or-nothing proposition. This stands in sharp contrast to the way in which some Christians today are requesting a religious exemption from COVID-19 vaccine mandates. Some have been trying to claim a religious objection to vaccines. However, there are several problems with this type of request. First, while some Christian denominations, such as Mennonites, have long-standing pacifist beliefs that trace back for centuries, there is nothing in the Christian faith tradition that prohibits vaccination. The simple reality is that any Christian who objects to the COVID-19 vaccines is doing so out of personal preference, not because of anything taught in the Bible. In fact, there is nothing in the Bible that supports this position. Now, to be clear, there is nothing wrong with opposing vaccine mandates. Many people, including myself, are uncomfortable at the way in which people are being forced to choose between their jobs and their personal beliefs. There are good reasons to be legitimately concerned about government overreach in this area. Nevertheless, we must remember that accepting or refusing a vaccine is a personal choice and not a test of religious faith. Unless a Christian church can point to a long-standing and publicly stated opposition to vaccines throughout its history and can back up this position from the Bible, it should not give religious exemptions to people who don't want a vaccine. Now, there is one commonly raised objection to the vaccine that is directly relevant to the Christian faith. Specifically, some Christians have claimed that COVID-19 vaccines contain aborted fetal tissue. If this was true, that would be cause for concern, particularly since most Christian churches do have a long-standing moral objection to abortion. If the production of vaccines is leading to an increased abortion rate, church leaders would be right to raise the alarm. However, the people who make this type of claim are mistaken. While the COVID-19 vaccines were tested on fetal cell lines, there is no fetal tissue in them. The cell lines used in the testing process were grown in a laboratory and are based on aborted fetal cells collected decades ago. Specifically, the HEK293 fetal cells used for the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines are based on an abortion that took place in the Netherlands in 1973. Anyone who rejects the COVID-19 vaccines because they were tested on fetal cell lines based on an abortion that took place nearly 50 years ago has set up an impossible moral standard. Not only are other vaccines also tested against these same fetal cell lines, so are a wide variety of commonly used medications. Specifically, if you boycott the COVID-19 vaccines, you will also need to avoid drugs such as Tylenol, Advil, aspirin, Claritin, Tums, Benadryl, Robitussin, and Pepto-Bismol. These drugs were all tested on the same HEK293 fetal cell line as the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines. You will also be out of luck if your horse needs to be dewormed. That's because ivermectin, a highly effective antiparasitic drug, was also tested on the HEK293 fetal cell line. It would be a shame if veterinary clinics could no longer stock this important drug. The reality is that while people have the right to refuse the COVID-19 vaccines, they cannot base this decision on a moral objection to abortion. nor can they point to any long-standing Christian beliefs that prohibit taking a vaccine. If you don't want to get vaccinated against COVID-19 because of your personal preference, that is fine. It is your right to make that choice. Just don't try to claim a religious exemption when doing so. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Zwaagstra. Council, we have the agenda in front of us, looking for a motion to adopt. Councillor Hebert, second by Councillor Hebert. Any comments?
No comments.
Call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Council, we have the minutes of October 19th, 2021, our regular council meeting on page 1. We've all had an opportunity to review. Looking for a motion to approve. Councillor Penner, second by Councillor Siemens. Any comments?
No.
Call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Is there any business arising from the minutes? Okay, seeing none. Council, we have no public hearing. We have no delegation. We'll go straight to 8A, reports and recommendation of city manager. This is Manitoba Housing and Renewal Corporation, the MHRC. This is, has to do with the grant applications. It starts on page 5 of your package. Mr. Hortney, would you like to introduce this file?
I will defer to Adam Thiessen, the city's corporate services manager for this file, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Yes, this is the next step in the MHRC Affordable Grant Housing process. Council last discussed this grant at the September 14 SPC meeting. Consensus at that time was to allow proponents until sometime into October to submit proposals. So administration set a deadline of October 20 and was pleased to receive 3 proposals that are in your package tonight. So just very briefly, we have proposal 1 from Vote Building. It's a new 18-unit multifamily building proposed to be built at 85 First Street. We have a second proposal from Habitat for Humanity, the Southeast chapter, wanting to build a duplex. They don't have a lot picked out at this time. And then the third proposal from Steinbach Community Outreach, and that they're proposing a new 24-unit multifamily building at 330 Stonebridge Crossing. At this time, administration is seeking a resolution from council to recommend proposals to be forwarded to MHRC for their review and approval process. A copy of their proposal checklist was completed by all 3 proponents, and those are included in here for your review. And then we've also got a quick chart just following on page 6 of your package, sort of outlining some key comparison points there for you. Recommendation from administration is for council to recommend proposal number 2 from Habitat for Humanity and proposal 3 from Steinbach Community Outreach to be reviewed by MHRC. These projects will not move forward without grant funding, and they represent the greatest possible addition of investment to the city, as well as dwelling units added. And proposal 3, I might add, also does comply with existing zoning requirements at the site they've proposed on Stonebridge there.
Thank you, Mr. Thiessen. Council, how would you like to proceed? Councillor Zwaagstra?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will make the motion that we recommend proposal number 3 for the grant approval.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Penner?
I'll second that.
Go ahead, Councillor Zwaagstra.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think this is a fantastic opportunity that we have in our city. We're very pleased that in March of this year that the province of Manitoba announced a $1.337 million grant to the conditional grant to the city that we can use for funding affordable housing. We received 3 applications. And they all are worthwhile applications. The reason that the motion specifically singles out proposal number 3 is that it is the proposal that I believe best fits the what we're looking for here. Steinbach Community Outreach is a well-established and recognized nonprofit organization in our city. They work with the vulnerable population. They know what type of housing would benefit many of their clients the most, and they have put some excellent work into a very thorough proposal. They're proposing to build 24 housing units, some of them bachelor suites, some of them single bedroom, which is obviously very good starter housing. They've outlined exactly how they would make sure that it would remain affordable over the 20-year period. There's a letter attached from Bridge Park Manor indicating support in principle for what is being proposed, and I think that's important to recognize that as well. And again, it's not that the other two proposals aren't good, but if you look at the amount of the grant is basically 1.3 million and a tiny bit extra. If we were to try to split this, even among proposal 2 and 3, proposal 3 would be getting less than the 1.3 million because the grant is specifically 1.337 million. There would not be enough for both proposal 2 and 3 to get the full amount of what they're asking for. I think we focus on one proposal which covers basically the entire grant with just a tiny amount extra that I'm sure could be used in a worthwhile way for this proposal. And we need to focus on that and move ahead accordingly rather than trying to split among two proposals and then end up with neither of them getting the full amount that they're looking for. So again, 3 good proposals. I think proposal number 3 with Steinbach Community Outreach is the best out of the options.
Thank you. Anything further?
Yes. Last year sometime or early in the new year, I actually had the opportunity to go on a tour of Steinbach Community Outreach with Irene Craker. And it was interesting at that time, and this is before we even knew this grant was available. She said to me, what we really need is affordable housing spots. And she, shared some of her vision for what that would look like and how to help their clients who attend to get back on their feet and help them get going again in their lives. So then it was very interesting shortly after this grant opportunity came out. So I'm very pleased to see Steinbach Community Outreach's proposal, and it is an excellent proposal. And also their vision for, it's not just that they're going to be renting out these spaces, but they're actually walking alongside the people who are going to be in these spaces. And I think for me, that's what sets this one apart. It's not just housing. It's more than that. It's support as well. So that is the reason I'm supporting Councillor Zwaagstra's motion to give it to Proposal 3.
Thank you. Anything further of Council? Councillor Siemens.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I also agree with this proposal. I like all 3 proposals. They all offer a good variation to the proposals or to the opportunity for the grant funding. But Proposal 3 with Steinbach Community Outreach, for many years now, they have certainly led the way in working with the homeless, working with the low-income families. They already do have a number of places that they put families up on a short-term basis. They have a concern and they have a good community following. And so they've done a lot of tremendous fundraising in the community, and they've been a big part of it. It makes sense. I think the 24 units that they are planning here is a very good start, and it will give them a great opportunity to expand their role in our community, and there is a need in the community. They also have the support of Bridge Park Manor, which is important. We have that in that letter that's stated. They have looked at a property. The property is close to their offices, the Steinbach Community Outreach offices, and the best thing about this whole thing, how I could to make that point again, is that they understand the needs and they're addressing those needs. And I think this is a great opportunity for them. And also as a community, it's a great opportunity.
Thank you. Anything further of Council? Anything in closing?
Nope.
Well, Council, there's not much left to say after that, but yes, I do agree there are 3 great proposals here. Again, I'm leaning towards the proposal number 3 from the Steinbach Community Outreach for many of the same reasons that you all have commented on. Yes, I do believe they are the organization with their finger on the pulse of this situation of the homeless and the low income in our community. And I think no one's better than them to take care of this and to help walk alongside. Even the name, I believe they're calling it the bridge. So it looks like they're hoping it's going to be temporary, 2 or 3 years, and they'll be able to transition, folks in need out of homelessness to a home, to something of their own. And that's exciting, and what they want to see. Also, they've been very aggressive in this, and they've already, to date, they've raised $350,000 for low-income housing in our community, and they're pledging over $700,000 to this project, which is it's phenomenal. That will again bring the cost down if there's fundraising involved in this. And that's why I will definitely support the motion. I think this is the best project. And council, I will at this time call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. We'll go to 9A, the accounts payable at the back of the book. We've all had a chance to review, looking for a motion to approve. Councillor Hebert, second by Councillor Penner. Any comments?
Paying our bills.
Call for the question. All those in favor? That is carried. Okay, we've got 9B, the bylaw 2183. This is the OCP, the Official Community Plan. This is our third reading on the amendment. Mr. Workney, would you like to introduce this file?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, this bylaw 2183 was an amendment application to the city's official community plan by Penco Construction LTD with respect to a proposed development for a property on Park Road West. This did require approval of the minister before City Council could consider this bylaw for third reading. That approval has now been provided. Recommendation is Council give this bylaw third reading.
Council, would you like to proceed? Councillor Zwaagstra?
I'll make the motion for approval.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Hebert? Go ahead, Councillor Zwaagstra.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It makes sense to obviously proceed with this. This is, we had to change the community plan because the applicant involved here is developing commercial residential development, and so we have to have it has to be changed to a commercial policy area to allow that, and so we have the approval from the minister, so now we can move ahead.
Anything further?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think it's a great project, and that's about all. Thank you.
Anything further of council? Anything closing?
Nope.
Okay. Council, I'll call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Are there any questions of council at this time? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on. Move to 11A. This is correspondence and petitions. This is the R.C.M.P of St. Anne. This is referring to the emergency services. Starts on page 57. Council, how would you like to proceed? Take as information. Okay. We have got the Association for Manitoba Municipalities. This is referring to the R.C.M.P unionization costs. This is on page 60 again. Council, we proceed by taking this information. Okay. And we've got 11C, Epp Library minutes. This is referring to September 15th, 2020. Council, how would you like to proceed? Take as information. Okay. Okay. There's no other business. Looking for a motion to adjourn. Councillor Penner, second by Councillor Penner. Call for the question. All those in favor? That is carried. Next regular council meeting is Tuesday, November 16th, 2021 at 7:30. Thank you, council.